It's the Chief, bonding with board games, and we're going to be coming to you with a review of a game that's right up on Kickstarter right now. Started July 4th, ends July 24th. That's the Quartermaster General. That's part of that series, The Cold War. So what does that mean? That means 1945 to 1992, baby, and everything you know that happened along that route. I wasn't even born, but the Berlin Airlift is in here. So yeah, I was born for the other stuff, but not the Berlin Airlift. The Cuban Missile Crisis, in the game. Wasn't born yet there either. When the wall fell down, yep, I was around then. All right. So you've got all those tensions that come along with the Cold War. If you're not familiar with the system, it's a asynchronous, I call them a lighter, card-driven war game that's really heavy on the theme or the historical theme of the genre that you're playing. It plays 3 to 6. You can layer in, basically you have 3 blocks: Eastern Bloc, Western Bloc, and like a non-aligned nationalist Chinese India bloc. You've got to chase the leader. So what that means is perfect for the Cold War is Eastern Bloc's in the lead. There's some auto victory conditions they can that are in there as you move through the rounds, so you can't let any one person get too far or one block get too far ahead. Meaning, second and third place are going to have to cooperate a little bit. Boom! Now second's in first. Whoop! Alliances change. Balance of power has shifted. That's the game. Not to mention, you got great bits, great cards. The way each block plays differently means I might sit down and play the Eastern Bloc and go, ooh, whole different feel. Whoop, now I'm playing Western. Whoop, now I'm over in China and India with nationalist countries. Yes, yes, yes. Let me go in and show you a little bit more.
All right, we're looking at the overall map, which I'm going to zoom in and cover some stuff in a little bit. But first, a little wider perspective. The turn order track, let me turn this just a touch. So you'll see on the turn order track, this little piece tracks it here, you're going to have a scoring phase or round every 2 turns, up to 19 turns. And what's also nice, and let me zoom in just a little bit, what's also nice is you can see the years that are represented. So 1945, literally World War II has just ended. It goes to 1950, 1955, 60, 65, until we get all the way to 1992, which is the 19th turn all the way at the top. I'm going to come back to that in 1 second, but while we're still kind of focused here, you can see there's a WMD, weapons of mass destruction, so not just nukes. There's a few different things that I'll show you in the cards that will have the will have the nuclear symbol on it. You're also going to notice somewhere on my floor, I dropped the non-aligned marker. There should be a non-aligned marker. If I can't find it, I'll put a placekeeper in there. This will track your WMD scale, kind of. When you use a card, there's a WMD cost. It can be from 1, 2, or up to 3, and it'll move up. I'll get into more of that in a second. Just know this is the area where that's tracked. So each of the 3 factions, you have a track showing how they're in comparison to the other 2 factions. You have a nice little turn order sequence. It's right there on the board. I went and read comments on the map. There were comments about how Africa is only broken into 3. There are comments about how Australia is missing New Zealand and Tasmania. And then there was a bigger one, which I'm going to zoom in on Germany here. And if I remove these 2 units that are opposing each other, you'll see that Germany there is unified. It's not split into West Germany and East Germany. And it was interesting because I felt like I could answer that before I'd even read the rules. The person was upset that it didn't show the fracture. Well, it's 1945 when the game starts. And you can see both the Western Bloc and the Soviet Eastern Bloc are present in Germany. Well, that is exactly where they were in 45. The cards, which if you've played Quartermaster General, I've not played the original one, but the cards are going to give you the historical notes. So you can imagine there being the Airlift and the different things that would be in competition in Germany. One of the different things in this game as well is that you can have two different Blocs, or the unaligned nationalists, in the same area, just like what you have in Germany, showing you that Cold War nature of the tension, and it not being necessarily a full-blown hot war, although you're going to have little things that do pop up which will affect the WMD. But I think you have a balance between functional, being able to literally move your pieces around, and the aesthetics of the map. But the German question was a good one. I don't think they looked into the game, they just saw the picture of the map. All right, so the Cold War and the Quartermaster General system is designed to be a 3-person game. Now, it can handle 4, 5, or 6, but if you're playing in 3 players, you shuffle the 2 decks together. So you have the non-aligned deck, you have the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. So in a 3-person game, shuffle these all together. One person's handling the West, the other one's got the East, and the other one's got the non-aligned, or the nationalist. One piece I wanted to show again, this is pre-production. This will be, my understanding, is in a player aid card in the final phase, but I just got paper copies for all the players. So it gives you a breakdown on the turn sequence. It then gives you the actual pieces on the board at the start, so you get your nice quick setup, so you're in and out easy. You then get your card breakdowns, so it'll tell you how many build army cards you have, how many build navy, for the Soviet Bloc, the Western Bloc, the non-aligned, and then the breakdown of your pieces, so you can just see exactly how those are separated out. So that way you're not wondering, like, you know, do I have another one of these build army cards? How many do I have? You've got all that information at your fingertips. The other thing you'll notice perfectly in these shots is all these anchors and all these arrows that are spread around. So the anchor represents a strait, and that what body of water is actually adjacent or connected to another body of water. The strait is always open to you as long as there are no other enemy armies that are occupying the land spaces that have the icon on it. So if there's an alternate army or an enemy army occupying, that would shut the strait down. All right, I also wanted to show the stars on the map, which are supply centers. And as long as you can trace your units, your colored units of your faction back to a supply location, you're in supply. And those units will stay intact. They don't get removed from the board. Now, there's an interesting caveat. If I can get my finger to come on, you'll see Germany has a supply star underneath that blue tank. However, it's contested. If it's contested, then you can't use that as a supply zone. Obviously, blue would track back to Germany, and the Soviets could track back to Eastern Europe. However, you'll be in some outlying places sometimes where it'll be crucial to get the opposing unit out of there, so you can stay in supply and not have it contested like it is in Germany. That is where the push and pull will be. I also want to show there are tokens, which I've just placed down here just so I didn't have to pan so far. Obviously, the other ones are printed on the board. They're permanent. They can be used by whatever faction controls it. These are faction specific and can be placed on the board strategically. So printed right on the board is the turn sequence. I'm going to walk you through that because just looking at it doesn't really explain it as well as seeing how the cards will interact. But real quick, you're going to see the sequence of play, and you're going to notice there's asterisks next to all of them but the supply step. The asterisk means it's optional, as you can see. And you're thinking, wow, there's tons of optional steps. Yes. And as we get into the play, you'll see that. And sometimes you're going to spend a whole lot of time on your begin turn step, depending on what kind of prep you've done. Turns are quick. Turns move through really fast. There's a little bit of downtime because one person's going at a time, but it doesn't take long, and it kind of just zings around. Let me go in. I've shuffled up the Western Bloc deck, and we'll take a look at it. I'll just kind of show you how a quick base turn would go. All right, so I've combined the deck. It's as if I'm controlling the Western Bloc. You can quickly see how easy it'll be to separate these again back into their green and their blues if necessary. What I've got down is just a quick thing to show you here is the different kinds of cards we have, and then I'm going to show you how a turn will work with these cards. You have events that are specific, and I'll zoom in on these in a second. You've got WMDs, you've got your land battles, you've got build an army, air power, build a navy, very similar to if you played the system, you'll understand those right away. You've got some espionage cards, which I'll explain when they get played. They're hidden, not everybody knows. And then you've got some status cards as well. So let me zoom in on a couple of these just so you can kind of see some of the historical flavor that's laid in. So we're on a status card. You can see the title is World War II Surplus. Pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of surplus military stuff around. So you then go into the body of what this status is. Use once per turn when you build a Western army. And then you're going to discard 3 cards. So you're going to be burning cards from your hand, your draw card, which you got to be real careful of. You don't want to deplete it. Discard 3 cards from your hand to build a Western army in an unoccupied space. So it's going to allow you to start expanding your military surplus by putting them in areas that are not contested or not occupied. So we have an espionage card, Berlin Airlift. Most people know what the Berlin Airlift is. In game purposes, let's say, well, you can see use when Western army in or adjacent to Germany is about to be removed. So they've played a card on you. This is defensive in nature. A card's been played on you, and it's going to remove an army that's either in Germany or adjacent to. You end up having this espionage card down on the table. Opponent couldn't see what it was. It's face down. You're able to flip it, and now instead of losing that army, the army stays. You've managed to supply it with the Berlin Airlift. And so you can see that fog of war that's in there. We've got all the build cards, so clearly you're building a navy. It goes into a sea zone. You've got an air power, and then you've got your regular army, which is represented by your tank. So I've got a land battle card. I should add a sea battle card as well. And we'll go into how battles work a little bit more in a second. But you can see it's got an escalation marker that would move up on the track that's over on the board. So obviously sea battles take place in the sea and land on the land. All right, land battles and sea battles. So first you play the card, and then in order to battle another Blocs piece, you must have either an army, so one of your tanks, or a navy, one of your submarine pieces, you're out in the sea, in the same space as another block. Now if there's all 3 blocks are present, you're going to be picking just one to fight. Now there are some other reactions that the person you're battling can play that could cancel the attack and things, but assuming nothing's blocked or they haven't played something to counter your land battle card or sea battle card, it's as simple as they will be removing their piece from the board. So again, you've got to have your army or navy in supply when you're going to initiate a battle. And then whoever you're attacking, it doesn't matter if they're in supply or not, they're still allowed basically to try to defend themselves. On the land, WMDs are great, so you're going to have a victory point cost. There's some stuff that goes on with this depending on your escalation marker as well, I'll explain. And you've got events. Let me zoom in on both of these so you can get a little bit flavor of how WMDs and events work. So under the WMD, you can see the title is Minuteman ICBM, Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. And you can see what it does, which gives you a real good flavor and the history of it. So right off the bat, if you play this, you're going to use in your begin turn step and then discard a prepared enemy WMD card. So I could get rid of an enemy's WMD card that's all ready to go, showing the counterbalance, or 8 of one enemy player's draw deck cards. So I can immediately, boom, take a hit on that enemy's draw deck. And again, what you're seeing is Minuteman ICBM. If you know some of the facts on it, the very nice basis of this card is it's going to give you that historic feel, and then it just shares or encompasses how that's going to impact game purposes, and you can see the escalation, the little nuclear symbols at the bottom, and how that's going to escalate if it's used. So the historical event card. So you see the title, Syngman Rhee, supported by the West. So if you have this card, you place a Western supply token in Korea, then recruit a Western army in Korea, then battle, moving up on the escalation chart in Korea. All right, I've drawn 12 cards off the top of the deck just to show the start of the game. So in this, I'm going to be keeping 7, and I'm also going to be putting 2 espionage cards down. I've got plenty. 2 espionage cards face down in front of me in the play area. So let me get all my espionage cards together, and I'm going to roll through this, so I'm not even going to read them. There's another, so let me just pick these 2. So let's just say these are the 2 I'm going to pick for my espionage cards. I now need to hold on to 7 cards. Let's just get rid of 3. Hold on. I'm going to hold on to my WMD, my build. Yeah, I'll hold on to these cards here, my status event, and I'm going to take these 3 espionage cards. Again, this would be a much more selected. I'm just telling you, you got to get rid of 3. And they go back on the bottom of the draw deck. So you know you're not going to see those at the very best till the very end of the game. And this will be the hand that I'll be starting with. So everybody's going to have 2 espionage cards down and then a hand to begin working with. All right, I move my draw pile off. These are my 2 espionage cards down. These are my 7 cards. So I'm in the begin turn step. Again, it's optional, so I don't have to do any of these things, but we're going to walk through. So the first thing is I can relocate resources. So if I'm relocating resources, you're saying, what is that? Well, it would allow me to discard 3 cards from my hand. I can just junk them, get rid of them. Why would you want to do that? Because that would allow me to go to my draw deck, search through the draw deck for a particular card that I want. Now, you're going to have to have played this enough to understand, wow, I haven't even read this, I really want Strategic Air Command and I want it now. It's worth it. I'm discarding 3 of my cards to go get this. This is brilliant, and it was worked in to mitigate some of that luck of the draw. So if I really want a specific card, I can go get it. It's going to cost me, but I can get it. Again, optional. I would then reshuffle. I can then go in and use any, let me get this up so you're not confused. So this is the hand that I've got in front of me. I can now use, in the begin turn step, any prepared cards. Espionage cards are face down. Other cards, WMDs and such, are going to see will be face up. So if they were prepared and they're allowed to be used in this begin turn step, I can do so. So let's take a look real quick and see at least what my espionage cards are. And you're going to see that Pact of Madrid is using your begin turn step. So yes, and I could place a Western supply token in Spain. I may want to do that. Boom, get it going. So I put something in there. And then I've got my start treaty, which again is using your begin turn step. Each block must discard a prepared WMD card. If it has none prepared, it must lose 3 VPs. So you can see why you may want to hold on to this. You're definitely going to want to hold on to it at least until there's a WMD card that you really don't want used against you, or you decide, you know what, they think they're running away with it, bam, I'm going to come in and hit them with a 3 VP hit. So anything that's prepared, which means down on the table, espionage cards face down, other cards face up, if it says you can use it in the begin turn step, boom, you can use it. Again, optional. All right, the air step, again, it's optional. So in my hand, do I have an air power card? I, of course, do. I even preset it up. So we're not paying attention to anything that's down. I'm literally going to play air power, but I can do 3 different things with it. So the first thing is I can simply build, and I had, almost knocked it off. I can go build an air power unit and place it on the map where I already have a supplied either sea power or a submarine or an army. So my air power can go both sea or land as long as that unit's in supply. I can also use it, let me bring it up, as an attack move. So that is why I have the question mark here. That will move my escalation marker up if I use it as an attack, and it will eliminate either a sea power unit or an army unit. With a caveat, if the unit I'm attacking has its own air power, in other words, a cap or an Air Force screen for its Army units, then it will not. If the enemy force has an Air Force with it, the only thing you can do is use your Air Force to destroy their Air Force. You can also rebase an Air Force. So I've got one on the map. It's already on the map, but I want to fly it somewhere else. So I can discard the card, remove my Air Force that's on the board, and place it or build it elsewhere. That's my air power card. All right, to show supply. So you can see I've got a connected line of units here, but we're going to actually look at Germany. That's a contested space. You can see there's a supply token printed on the map, but it cannot use that supply token to be in supply because it's a contested space with the West there. However, this unit is safe because it can track back to this Eastern Europe space which has supply. But let me show you something that would be a little bit interesting. So if, let's take this unit out of France and just throw it over here. Now we have two contested spaces. This unit, even though contested, can again track back to that supply token. So this one, I don't know why I'm calling it a token, that one's printed on the board. This is still in supply, even though it's contested, it can track back. However, you cannot track the German unit back through a contested space. So I would remove this unit from Germany, and this Eastern Europe piece would still be safe because it can still track back through uncontested areas to a supply token. It can no longer use its own contested, but it can track back. Okay, in the espionage phase, so I've got these espionage cards. In order to play them down or prepare them, I have to discard another card from my hand to do so. So I could just get rid of this one, discard it, and then prepare yet another espionage card to be played, if I can get it to come in a begin step turn. I then simply enter in to refilling my hand back up to 7. So I've only got 5, 6 with the status, and 7 with yet another espionage card, which you're going to see a lot of them will be at the begin turn step. The begin turn step, you'd be surprised. You can spend a whole lot more time in your begin turn step than anywhere else. Boom, my turn's over. All right, victory conditions. So you have 2. So the first one is at the end of 19 rounds, which puts you in 1992, the player with the most victory points wins. But as you go through each of the scoring phases, there's a caveat. If any one player, remember you're going to have at least 3, but if any one player is at least 20 victory points ahead of the person in last place, they could win. But there's what they call a balance of power. So you take the person in second place, they have to give the person in last place enough of their VPs to get them up to within 19 points of the leader. If they can do that, great. Game continues. You've now got a balance of power. You go on to the next round. If they can't, or if, let's say, giving that amount of points to get last place to within 19 would drop second place to 20th, so you're on that razor's edge, the game is over. The person in the lead wins because you can't get, you're still going to have someone 20 points less than the leader. But I love this balancing mechanic because if in a 3-person asymmetrical game, you really need the players in second and last place to be keeping the leader down. And then if second place moves into first place, immediately you've got like, okay, now we're working on keeping the leader down. And if you're not keeping that under control, there's this forced balance of power victory point mechanic that unless it's really surpassed by the leader, they're forced to have a balance of power. So that's a nice little caveat on how victory happens. All right, so the Quartermaster General series, or the spin-offs, are really doing a great job of capturing the era. I love the idea of playing the Cold War, the WMDs that are there, the nuclear threat, the escalation track, the espionage that's going on, the way the two factions have the push and pull when WMDs are being used. Again, the asymmetrical nature and the way you got to keep units in supply, and even the use of air power, which is really abstracted out, but in a beautiful way that no war, Vietnam, Korea, they could not be won by air power alone. And you definitely get that feel in here as well. So hopefully that I've explained how the board is definitely abstracted, but how you're working from 1945 to 92, and you got to kind of depart from the cartography as it is, seeing Germany as unified and things, to understand that we're moving from 45 all the way to 92, and it's as if this game, you know, some things are going to happen that happen in history, and you may end up discarding the espionage card about a forged CIA forgery discredits the Italian communists. That may not even be in the game. Therein lies the fun. The 3-person or 3-team asymmetrics that are going on, and the history are what really bring the Cold War to life.
All right, we're back. First, let's talk about the bits. Now, I've got a preview copy. It's up on Kickstarter right now, but I'm telling you, these cards got to be final art. The backs are gorgeous. The ease of separation, because you can have up to 2 people playing a deck, and you split the deck, perfectly done. Easy to spot, easy to separate, beautiful. So that's functional. The bits are great. Now these are metal, yours will be plastic if you're backing. I'm curious, and they may not be doing this, so I'm just curious. All of these are Americanized, the F-16, M1 Abrams. I forget the name of the exact submarine, but it's an American submarine. I'm curious if it really blows up on Kickstarter, if stretch goals will be different molds for the different blocks. That could just be me, but that is something I would like. Either way, these are great. And it's real easy to tell what's what. But the way they've got them positioned, it wouldn't be hard if you had a MiG, a MiG-21 on there. Yeah, you could, here we go. No problem. I can tell that from the F-16, easy, and the angle. Whoop. So the bits are great. Map is abstracted, the same kind of color, the greenish color palette that you're used to. I have no problem with the abstraction at all. Remember, you're going from 1945. Germany's still, well, they're post-World War II. I wouldn't say unified. I would say freshly defeated. But all those separations haven't happened yet. So you wouldn't expect to see the East Germany and West Germany. But the map is abstracted to a certain extent. It's designed to give you that overall feel. Remember, you're way above this with running a whole Western or Soviet Bloc, or the non-aligned. The ability, the turns move fast. You're prepping your cards. You've got espionage face down. Nobody knows what you might be doing there. WMDs are up. Whoa, he can do that. He can get the Minuteman in. Oh, he's got a trident, blah, 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 da, da, da. You're moving through your turn. Click, click, click. Boom, shift, shift. Do it again. Boom, boom, boom. Bam, scoring round. And it just progresses. Pop, pop, pop. So these move. Quartermaster General games will move. That is one reason they handle, in this case, the 3-player designed asynchronous play. Being able to layer in an extra player doesn't, it adds a little bit of time for that play, but it's all way manageable. So if you've got a group that likes to play lighter war games, or they really want to play the Cold War theme, yes. So Ian Brody's got a system that I think is so nice, because it's that familiar, comfortable Quartermaster General, and then you can say, okay, how's it going to work in the Cold War? How, obviously I'm going to have the main events. How are those main events going to work? The idea that in this one, you can have 2 different blocks can be in the same contested region or country, and showing that tension. And now you can't draw supply to that area. It's contested. Yes. So it's got all the flavor. Beautiful, simple rule book that even walks you through some set plays so you can kind of see how things feel. You will need to kind of learn your deck as you're going, but that's definitely part of the meat, part of the joy. Go check it out if you haven't already. Kickstarter, it's up till July 24th, 2018. And if you get a chance, go check out No Enemies Here. That's Dan Pancaldi's Wargaming News show. It's the Chief, Potting with Board Games. See you guys. Gotta go play some Margaret Thatcher.